Hi everyone, my name is Lily and I'm the book blogger behind Utopia State of Mind, and welcome to my November wrap up. So just like October, I'm going to start off with the books that I read for the Reading is Resistance / Read Palestine. So like in my October wrap up, I'm going to start off by chatting about the books that I read for the Reading is Resistance readathon. I read 3 in November. The first one is that I finished up the graphic novel Palestine by Joe Sacco. Also, by the time that this video is up, you should be able to see blog posts with all of my Reading is Resistance book picks, so I will leave that link down below. But as I said, it is Palestine by Joe Sacco. This was a really kind of intense graphic novel, and I don't necessarily mean it only in terms of content. Obviously, the oppression of the Palestinian people is intense, but I also mean that there are long parts of this or chapters of this that are just prose, which I wasn't really expecting for a graphic novel or graphic memoir illustrated kind of thing. So it definitely took me longer to get through than I thought it would, but it's something that I easily would recommend to a lot of other people. Coming from a US perspective, like me coming from a US perspective, I thought this was really valuable, and so I would definitely recommend it, especially if you're on the beginning of your journey for the Reading is Resistance readathon picks for Palestine. The next one is Salt Houses. I did not know what to expect by Salt Houses. It's a multi-generational novel based on one family, and we really get to see the glimpses of like each of these characters. I wouldn't say that we spend a huge amount of time with each of these characters, but we do spend somewhat time with each of these characters, and we're able to see the ways that family, home, identity, their relation to Palestine, their relation to all their various homes, their religion have kind of changed and evolved as time has gone on for each of the members being different. You know, for example, the older members, they have these stories about fleeing, being refugees. They remember bits of Palestine. They remember bits of their lives in these homes that they've had to leave, but they don't necessarily share all of that information with the younger generations, who are kind of at certain points in the book being kind of ridiculed or mocked for their lack of sort of, oh, but if you're Palestinian, why did you spend some time in Lebanon? You know what I mean? They're kind of diasporic in the sense that they've left from where their family kind of originated, and so they're not really sure how to make sense of that identity. And I thought that that was really valuable considering the amount of people who've been forced from Palestine now. And I also felt like this was a really interesting story about family as well, kind of on a different layer. And then the final thing is Minor Detail, which I wanted to read in September, but I didn't get to it. I normally wouldn't have picked up Minor Detail because of the trigger warnings, but I'm so glad that I did. So there's a trigger warning for rape, just so that you know ahead of time. Just be careful and gentle with yourselves. And it is focused predominantly in the first half of the book, so just know that as well. Minor Detail was a relatively short book, less than 200 pages, but it really is impactful. After I finished reading it, I kind of almost wanted to start again reading it because there were so many things that were kind of literary echoes of the first half. So basically, first half and the second half almost mirror each other. Not only is the second half investigating the crimes of the first half, but also there are things like the grass and the sand and just kind of sensory details that are echoing, which to me kind of made a symbolic representation that the past is not forgotten. The past isn't dead. It's kind of like screaming to be heard, kind of. So that's why I really liked Minor Detail, and it really kind of resonated with me. And honestly, the echoes of Minor Detail are still resonating with me now as I keep kind of digesting it. So those are the 3 books that I read for the Reading is Resistance from November. Oh my God, what did I make in November? Oh, give me 1 second. So I started making a cable scarf, which I'm not done with, so I can't really show it to you, but it's going to take a while because it is just knitting really slowly. It's like a 6-row repeat, if that makes any sense to anyone. But my cow sweater is seamed. I realized after I made such a big deal about how I was done with it, I forgot the neck. So it is seamed. Here you go. Once it's actually done, I will take a photo of it and I'll post it on Instagram, so don't worry. But honestly, in November, I didn't really make that many things. I was really busy with panels. If you saw, I had like so many panels in November. Also, I'm filming this on December 2nd, and I have 3 more panels to go before I'm done. for the 2023 season. So excited to be done, but also so excited for the 2024 season. So the kind of sort of section about me behind the reader is really, really lax this month. Oh, in November, I went to London. I went to Yalk for a week. So I will link down below my TikTok kind of vlog of that one. That experience was really, really great. It was fun to be around a book community, which I'm kind of not really feeling so well where I live. So it was really fun to be connected to that. Thank you to everyone who I met. It would take me too long to name everybody as well. But yeah, I definitely want to go next year. So if you're going to go next year, let me know down below. Now, let me talk about stats. I did not prepare my stats in advance, but it was a pretty diverse month. You know what I'll do? I will leave my stats on the screen for you to see afterwards. Sorry, I'm like so unprepared. I'm hanging on by a thread. I will put a photo of my bookshelf, which is also hanging on by a thread, but that is my mental state. So anyway, here, behind these hands, are the stats in terms of how many books I read which featured main characters of color and queer characters as main characters. But just in terms of how I feel, and looking at my spreadsheet right now, I think I did pretty well. Let me know how I did, I guess, down below. But I also had a lot of books that I really, really loved. So obviously I really, really loved Palestine. I just felt like this was so impactful and informational, all wrapped up into one. So that's definitely a favorite that I've already chatted about. I had a lot of really, really great reads. Do I have it with me? I'm like looking in front of me. I'm not sure. I think I put it somewhere else. Give me a second as well. Look at how prepared I am. It's great. God, at this point, the rest of the content for 2023 is just gonna be chaos. Utter chaos. But anyway, these are the physical 3 books that I read this month. I read a lot of other books, but these are just the ones that I have on hand. But the one I wanted to chat about is Two Twisted Crowns. It's a sequel to One Dark Window. And I really liked this one. It has magical card, like tarot card-esque magic, which I have always thought was really unique. That's one of the things I really enjoyed about One Dark Window. But this one, was so good. It was also like super romantic, super swoony. I don't remember that being the case for One Dark Window. I mean, it was, because I got flashbacks reading One Dark Window when I was reading Two Twisted Crowns. But this one, the romance, the swoons, the shipping, like 100 times more intense. I really enjoyed that aspect a lot. It helped me feel like this was a great sequel in the sense that it introduces new characters or more depth into other characters, and it refreshes and freshens up the plotline from the beginning while also still retaining those characters and retaining the true essence of the story and the kind of broader general arc. So this was just a fantastic sequel. Thank you so much to Orbit for sending that to me. The next one that I want to chat about is Love Boat Forever. So this has to be my favorite of the Love Boat Taipei books, but I think what makes it my favorite are a variety of very personal reasons. The first one is that it has to do a lot with music. The main character Pearl is the main character. Wow, I remembered someone's name. This is like a good sign. Pearl, the main character, is a musician. She is a she's a pianist. There is a violinist in the book. She is a pianist, so I really love that. I dabbled in music and being a violinist myself in high school, so I really love that one. Secondly, it talks a lot. It has a love triangle, which if you've been following me for a while, you know I'm not the biggest fan, or I wasn't. It has to be done really right, and it was done really right. In Love Boat Forever, it's a lot about these two different people who are representing two different paths. Someone who we might think looks better on paper, someone who really challenges us, like someone who almost infuriates us too much. And then 3, it talks about museum acquisition, which I don't feel like enough books talk about, but it's something that I've seen more trending about, for example, in Warrior Girl on Earth, but also in Love Boat Forever, it talks about like the illegal and honestly awful museum acquisition, the ways that they will do anything to get a hands on whatever they want and also to keep it. And I thought that was a really interesting thing to bring up in this context. And I guess 4th and finally is it kind of chats about being westernized. It is a diaspora book in the fact that Pearl had grown up her whole life in the US. And so in this book, she kind of starts to really think about her perspectives, her specifically also what she thinks of as valuable, successful art in terms of composers, works of music, instrument choices as well, and the Western focus that we can have, for example, for like Mozart and Bach, but like other people made music and it was also really great. And kind of those things kind of start deeply unpacking that kind of view and that kind of way that we just accept that some things are valuable and some things are not. But like, does it have to be the case? So that's why I really love Love Boat Forever. And the next one is Caught in a Bad Romance, which was so fun. It was just like, I read this in a couple days. I finished early because it was so fun. Not only is it fake dating rivals, like intense rivalry, family rivalry, it had to me a queer Parent Trap vibe in the fact they're not siblings, but in the fact that there's like those kinds of summer camp pranks. They are rivals. It is queer. So all of those things. But I think what I really liked is that Caught in a Bad Romance forces us and forces the main characters to look past the illusion of what you see when you think you know someone or you think you hate someone. What is the person like behind that? That's why I really loved Caught in a Bad Romance. And not the last one. The next one is The Day Death Stopped, which to me felt very Good Omens-esque. It had kind of the kind of wry humor, the wry sarcasm that you hear in the narration of Good Omens. Okay, just a disclaimer, I've only seen the show, I haven't read the book. So that's all I have as my frame of reference. But it had that, it also had footnotes to kind of contribute to that feeling. So in that sense, it just felt very playful and very sarcastic and dry in the best way, while also talking about what would happen if we stopped death. Like if people just stop dying, and not in like necessarily what you would think like a good way, as in people become immortal, but like the people who at the time that death stopped kind of just stay alive in kind of broken, awful bodies too, you know, like if they're in the process of dying in an accident, for example. So that's not great. But I think it also talks about ethical power. It talks about being the non-chosen one really deeply, and how people with good intentions might do some really bad things. What happens when a mentor, what happens when a family member doesn't treat us well, and how do we recover? How do we make sense of that and move forward in our lives? So that's why I really like The Day Death Stopped. The next one is All the Fight. Oh, I have actually two more. So wait, do I have three more? Yeah. So there's All the Fighting Parts, which is kind of, I'm not sure from my arc, but I think it's kind of told in sort of poem-esque spoken word kind of things. And what I think I really loved is that it obviously talks about assault, but it talks about speaking up. And it has this thing where it juxtaposes two different times. So a time beforehand and time afterhand. So you can kind of see them work in parallel and work against each other. And I think it really drives home this idea. Not only does everyone resist and survive and flourish and live on in a different way, it looks different for everybody, but also the idea that assault can rob us not only of our voice, of the feeling and control of our body, but also in our rage, right? I loved both of these from a thematic story perspective, and All the Fighting Parts are just emblematic of all of that. The next one is The Serpent and the Wings of Night, which like this adult fantasy / kind of like romance, this adult romantasy fantasy duology. I don't know. I never read it originally. It recently was picked up by Bramble, and so it's been reprinted. Also, I'm not sure if it's been re-edited, but it's been reprinted and traditionally published, and it was just so fun. It was like Underworld met the Hunger Games. So you have a like human and a vampire, which like shouldn't work, but you know, Underworld made it work. Celine made it work, and so it has that vibe, but it also has, like Underworld, the same vibe where Celine is trying to really delve into her past and has to really feel, really exploring herself if the people around her, or if the vampires around her in the case of Celine, are telling her the right things, are honest with her, are not betraying with her, are not pursuing their own manipulation and their own ends. Like, if you loved that element of Underworld, then you kind of have to read The Serpent and the Wings of Night. And it also has deadly competition as well. I also think that the world is going to kind of expand and bloom in the second one, which I'm really excited for. So it was just so fun that it kind of took these two high school growing up loves of mine, the Hunger Games Underworld, and just smush it together. And finally, I have In the Ring, which is similar, honestly, to all the fighting parts. They have very similar themes in the fact that it talks about assault as well. It talks about reclaiming our voice. But In the Ring also asks, in a variety of different characters, what we will inherit from our parents. Are we doomed to repeat our parents' mistakes? Our parents have expectations, dreams, ambitions for us, but are we destined to always do or sort of fight against that? And I thought that that theme is really universal, and In the Ring deals with that. It also deals with boxing, which when I did kickboxing for a little bit, I really, really loved it. I could not do like boxing. But it kind of made me feel a little bit, when I was reading, I would be like, practice punching and stuff. And yes, it hurt my arm, but it was fun. So In the Ring was also really, really fabulous in the way that it talks about reclaiming our sense of body and fighting back. It also talks about mental health as well. So definitely would recommend In the Ring. And those were my favorite reads of November. Just, keeping it going. I'm just trying to get through 2023, take a little bit of a breather, and get to 2024. So this was chaotic, like really chaotic. I don't know, honestly, where we're going to go for 2024, where we're going to go, even for my wrap up for December. So let me know down below, what were your favorite books of November? Maybe also what's on your TBR for December. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.